Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is CS MGTOW. Today, I would like to talk about the topic of ownership of male sexuality, and this is a follow-up, as it were, to Barbarossa's article on sheddingoftheego.com, and the article title is Disappearing Japan's Demographic Nightmare. It's an article authored by Barbarossa himself. Most of the welfare systems, whether they be in the east of the world or the west, are set up on a pay-as-you-go type basis where the benefits are paid out to people using the welfare system out of current taxation. So a lot of people assume that you kind of pay into a pot, the government invest it, and then you get it back at a later date. That actually isn't the case, and I think it's very, very important to keep that in mind or in relation to this discussion. So because it's on a kind of pay-as-you-go basis, the system only works when those paying in outnumber those taking out of the system. And a declining population, such as the population in Japan, which is declining very, very rapidly, makes this form of welfare system impossible in the long run. Every single industrialized nation uses this system. So the Japanese population fell by roughly 244,000 in 2014. It's the eighth straight decline and also the biggest so far. According to estimates, and it's really dependent on the estimates you find, I guess, most reliable or accurate, there may be between 30 million to 37 million fewer Japanese around in 2050 than there were in 2010. The French population fell by about 2.5 million people during the First World War, but it was almost back to its 1940 level by 1931. So a reduced population per se is not catastrophic. There are historical precedents. What makes it different this time around is that men are wholesale refusing to participate in economic life. Essentially, men have left and they're not planning to return. Now, almost monthly, I see articles talking about the problem of men refusing to reproduce. And at its root, these articles show a presumed ownership by society of the male sex drive and its corollaries, in the manner of a farmer who's pretty dismayed that his turkeys refuse to reproduce in time for Christmas. You see this whenever a new study comes out lambasting men who are using pornography rather than marry, or men who prefer the company of escorts, or even short-term, dalliances over monogamous relationships. At the heart of all of these arguments is the belief that male sexuality is some sort of communal property, that it should be used to benefit individual women who may require provisioning via the marriage contract, or society as a whole via taxation and soldiers. This should give you a rather accurate, albeit painful, glimpse into how society sees you as a man, a resource to be used. Your first goal in their eyes is to procreate, helping the state create additional tax fodder, and then to overproduce relative to your own individual needs for about 60 years in some kind of a soul-crushing job to support a wife who then spends the rest of your wealth when she outlives you. So because society sees you as a sexual resource, any use of your sex drive outside of these pre-approved activities is going to be met with ridicule, violence, or even legal sanction. Notice how in half of the world, pornography is illegal. Prostitution is illegal in most countries. In Scandinavia, Ireland, and actually quite a number of other countries now, the female participant as a transaction is treated like a victim. For them, the male sex drive is something to be channeled, diverted, and controlled. Now, they're not acting purely out of malice. There is, I guess, some method behind their madness. You see, without the male sex drive, we certainly would not have an advanced industrial civilization or a welfare state. The desire of a male to accumulate resources is directly driven by his goal to find a mate and possibly sire children. And I think Stardust really covered this in his excellent video, The Post-Red Pill Malaise. He mentioned something I found to be personally true, that the motivation to keep up with the Joneses can really disappear to a small or a large extent, depending on who you are, after you take the red pill. The desire and willingness to work an 80-hour work week reduces drastically when you go your own way. When you remove the desire to compete with other men for resources, we in essence become like lions, so you chase the odd antelope for a meal, and then the rest of the time you're conserving energy. Women, the government, society feel that you owe them something because you're a man. You owe them your labor, your wealth, and of course, your life expectancy. I think these articles and the state of the Japanese economies also allow you to see just how important you are as a man to the economic system and why going your way is not futile. It is many more times, in my opinion, more impactful than the MRA, as it simultaneously benefits you with a quality of life by avoiding marriage and cohabitation. An MRA, an MRA in the system is working hard to produce more than he needs in a bid to attract a mate. Of course, the MRA would still like to support a family. He just wants the laws changed. So his male sex drive will be added to the coffers of the state in the form of tax revenue while he works to find his Nawalts. The MRA supports the very system he claims to despise, while the MGTOW, to the extent that it's legally possible, don't. So when people say MGTOW won't lead to change, as Barbarossa said in that article, point to Japan. So while I don't personally believe that a reduction in misandry is going to be a direct result of this, I am pretty confident that men going their own way will feel the misandry to a lesser extent, just simply because you have less interaction with society. Japan does have, of course, very, very low levels of immigration, so they're going to feel a population drop far more than most European countries, which I guess now have an open borders policy. So their experiences may not completely translate to the West, but I still think it's important for us to discuss within the MGTOW community. Thank you very, very much. This is CS MGTOW.